Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and Mac Lane. Mac, today we are talking all things Hokies, that huge gobbler turkey thing on your shirt. We are talking all things Hokies, and we're excited to do that, Mac, with Virginia Tech Athletic Director Whit Babcock. We get into so many interesting things with him about the future of Virginia Tech, where they are now with NIL, facilities, the state of college athletics, the state of Virginia Tech football, new women's basketball coach. I mean, the list goes on and on.
It's a good time for to be a Hokie. Let me just tell you that. And it was really fun. I love Whit, and I think you do too, the conversations that we've had and his support for the network and for us specifically. But it was really cool just to kind of hear his thoughts on a little bit more in depth and some things you'll hear in here really cool, especially the future, of where he thinks college athletics. And I threw a number out that was maybe a little generous anyway. And he was like, no, I think stuff's going to be happening a little quicker than that. So it really just kind of, puts a point on that, these men and women in these positions, they're having to think about it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And prepare, stay up to date. I mean, all these bills and things that happen in the massive bill in Virginia, which, we thought was maybe going to give them a little bit more of a leg up than maybe right now because of what the NCAA did, I think, in response to that, to kind of try to level the playing field a little bit. I'm sure there's some little idiosyncrasies that maybe give Virginia a little advantage there, but it was great. It was a really fun conversation, KG. And like I said, exciting times to be a Hokie right now.
It is. And we'll have more Virginia Tech content coming throughout the summer on our summer guest series. And then as we get into season previews, we actually just interviewed a certain college football savant, and that will come out, I think, in June. And he had some thoughts on Virginia Tech. We're going to get to football in just a second. I'm going to say this, though, Matt, because we saw a clip going around last week from the Queens of Castle, Georgia Amore and Liz Kitley, just about some of the backlash that specifically Georgia has received for transferring to Kentucky. And I want to say this. First and foremost, I know that the backlash specifically directed directly at Georgia Amore, like in person, that is a very small minority of Virginia Tech fans, and even online too, very small minority. I also want to add that I understand being upset. Like, I get that. I think especially when the wound was fresher, people were probably, mad. Like, I understand. Right. I mean, we're at the point with women's basketball where it matters this much to people. I called so many Virginia Tech games this year. I loved it. That place was packed. People were living and dying with every shot, every three, and they love Georgia. And they wanted, the people that you love, you want them to stay as long as possible at Virginia Tech. Now, on the flip side, though, I really understand Georgia's perspective in that Kitty Brooks is basically her American father, is the way she's put it. And when you have 1 year of college left and you're trying to have one more year before you get drafted, you've got to go where you're going to be able to succeed. Now, I think Coach Duffy is a great coach. She is exactly who I would have hired if I was with Babcock, and I told him that. But if you're Georgia Amore, you have to stick with what's worked because there's so much on the line for you and your career moving forward. So because we are about 2 months removed from all this going down, I feel like Virginia Tech fans, I'll say we, because, I am one of y'all.
United we stand.
Yeah, exactly. I'm one of y'all. Okay. I'm a big fan. I think we have to collectively just take a step forward and move on. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're watching, have. And, time heals everything. I hope one day Georgia's jersey will be retired because that's what she deserves. Most outstanding player to get of the Final Four, to get Virginia Tech the Final Four of that region. That's the kind of stuff that you shouldn't take lightly. Most outstanding player of the ACC tournament with Virginia Tech's ACC tournament championship. So that being said, I understand people still being frustrated, but let's move on to the next chapter. I think Coach Duffy and that staff she's put together are going to be phenomenal, Mac.
Yeah, and I think it is, it is unfortunate that the number one, that they had to address it that way, and I mean, you saw the tears in Georgia's eyes. I mean, how torn up.
It's tough, especially.
It is tough.
George is 21, 22 years old. Like, to have to make all these decisions and all this public pressure, it's really hard.
It is. It is. And especially when, she got to the point of saying that it put, a bit of a black spot on her, thoughts now, of it. And that kills me because it's the smallest people. It's the small, not it's the minority that are the loudest, that are
Yeah,
going to do these
always.
extremes. And I'm sure there's a vast majority of Hokie fans that, again, are so grateful for her, for both of them, for all three of them, what they did for Virginia Tech, how they were able to make it happen. But at the end of the day, like, we have to understand that, and they laid it out a little bit, but in the business world, you, who
Hmm.
we're talking to right now, will make the same decisions that are better for you and your family.
Correct.
Like, there's no, loyalty in this business. You're going to do what's best for you to at the end of the day. So that's what I think, KG, where, people get so torn up on, these men and women making business decisions that at the time they think is best for them. Now, are there other examples where I disagree with it? Sure. And I think that, you should have probably waited it out or handled a little adversity before you just jump in this portal and go. But Georgia Amore gave her heart and soul to Virginia
Yeah.
Tech. Like, she's a graduate, or she will be a graduate. And so that to me is where there's circumstantial, reactions to everything. And I just think this was a miss by, again, a minority. We
A
get that.
minority.
And
And Mac,
it's just unfortunate.
it is. And let's add this too. I also understand from a fan perspective, this makes it harder to be a fan. Where
Sure.
we are in
Yeah.
college athletics makes it harder to be a fan
Right.
because
With
it
people
used
moving
to
around,
be,
changing the team. I
yes.
get that. I get that.
And again, Georgia put in 4 years. She's using her COVID year. It's a little bit of a different situation. But
Right.
like what people used to love about college athletics was I went to my school. I love my school.
Yeah.
And I root for this team because these players who play for my school seem to also love my school. Like
Right.
that's kind of the tie and the bond that people have and why college athletics and college sports fans are fanatics like we're
Right.
seeing here. And I mean, Georgia is a little bit, she's not necessarily who I'm talking about in this situation, but it does make it harder, I think, to be a fan. And we talked about that
Right.
some with Whit, but also Virginia Tech has benefited a lot from transfers
A ton.
on the women's basketball side, on the football side, as we're going to get
Yeah.
into football here, Mac, with Kyron Drones, who's the
Yeah.
perfect example.
Right.
So, sometimes the portal giveth, the portal taketh. But I do hope time will heal everything and Georgia Amore's jersey will be in the rafters. And Liz is going to be, which,
Right.
as we talked about with Whit Babcock on this podcast.
Yeah. What took them so long?
That
What the
was
heck?
a no-brainer.
It really was. It really was. So again, unfortunate that situation, had to happen the way it did. Unfortunate that those young women felt like they had to address it. And, it felt like they've been attacked a little bit by it, especially I'm sure online, but also some in-person situations there as well. Let's transition a little bit here before we get to Whit to football, as you mentioned, KG, because I am very excited about this team. And you kind of referenced a guest that we had on that you'll hear a little bit later in summer, and then y'all will be like, aha, that's who they were talking about. They're
Just
not
wait.
as excited about me, but you know what I say? They don't know what the heck they're looking at. They're looking at a bunch of different things. I know, okay? I know this team is ready to go. And I really do think that all the returners that are coming back, you look at those receivers, that tight end, the core there led by Allie Jennings. Can we see him take that step? We saw it for one game, and you're like, woo, that could be fun. Now he's back. And again, continuing to build that. You look at what Kyron Drones did, how comfortable he got, how comfortable offensive coordinator Tyler Bowen got with them going, as well as just the run game between Bashal Tootin and Kyron Drones. That's going to be special. And that's something I can't wait to see. Oh, by the way, KG, the defense is loaded. Add Aeneas Peoples from Duke. Peoples, who's a freak show. I'm jacked up about this team. I really am. And I think if they can just take one step forward, they're going to be somebody to reckon with in the ACC.
Yeah, they have to take that next step. And the hype is there, which is great because it's exciting to be talking about Virginia Tech football again in that way. We talked about last September for them was, it was tough. And we thought, wow, there's no way this team makes a bowl. They turn it around. Their finish and the way they played down the stretch was incredible. And now I think this September, plus they play their first game on August 31st. So let's just count that. I think this September is going to tell you a lot. Tell you basically what you need to know. Because if you want to have the season that people are expecting, you can't have the September you just had.
Right. And it's virtually the same September.
I know,
Okay.
exactly.
With maybe a little bit more talent. Don't hear what
With
I'm not
Miami
saying.
thrown in there at the end. At
Yeah,
Miami, which,
yeah, and
is a
at
huge game.
Vanderbilt, you replace Vanderbilt with an opener against ODU, which Vandy will have a sign of life. They're an SEC team. I'm not saying you shouldn't beat them by 30, but at the end of the day, they have that patch on their jersey there. I agree, though. We're going to look up on October 1st and be like,
we'll know a lot.
told you, or maybe not quite.
Before their trip to Stanford.
Of course, going west. Go west, young man. Go west.
We talked to Whit about that too. So let's get to Whit. But first, guys, Ingles is such a supporter of the pod. Go check him out. Mother's Day was yesterday. We're recording this a little early, so I'm doing some math in my head. Mother's Day was yesterday. And thankfully, Ingles is there to, if you forgot about the mother in your life, which, I mean, yikes. But if you did, you need to go get flowers like today. I would go handle that. And then, if you did mess that up, maybe just, look in the mirror and evaluate. But you can get ready for Father's Day, where all Mac would want for Father's Day, I'm going to assume Mac, is just a raw rack of ribs. Like that. Is that just what you want? And then you can do whatever you want.
That's all I dream about. It's all I dream about is opening a soggy wrapped present from Amelia, and it's just a rack of ribs waiting to be cooked.
That's perfect.
No, but I'm right there with you. I mean, it's cooking season, okay? And it never, ever isn't cooking season, but it's summertime. Get outside, get some meat smoking. We've been cranking it up over here. And here's the deal. Later this week, go to my Instagram. My best friend in the world, Isaac, is coming up to town. My brother-in-law is coming over. We're doing steaks. We're doing lobster. We are throwing down. And of course, I get all that, the best meat in town over at Ingles. So check them out, guys. Here's a quick message and then an awesome interview with Whit Babcock.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Whit Babcock joining us here on Gramlich and McLean, the athletic director at Virginia Tech. Whit, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Yeah, thank you. I love the show. You guys are fabulous for the league and always very fair and good to the Hokies. So nice to be on.
Well, we appreciate that. And you guys make it easy to root for you. You just had a lot of success, and it's fun to see. And we'll talk about that some here in a little bit. But something I kind of wanted to start with, because it feels like it's ever evolving. And please correct me if something has changed since this has happened. And it's funny, when this airs, who knows if it'll change again. But a House bill was just signed in Virginia by the governor, 1505 state law, that basically says that you guys will be able to have a lot more involvement with the NIL, the different things that are going on. And then the NCAA board of directors there, all of a sudden they come up with this initiative and these different, ratifications for NIL. Do you feel like y'all's bill was a big part of that? And do they differ at all? Is Virginia still maybe a little more cutting edge with the bill that they had roll out?
Yeah, I don't know that the two were related. The Virginia bill will take effect July 1st. We certainly like the proactive stance, positioning Virginia schools to be successful until we can get to a federal standard. But yes, all signs seem to be pointing to more school involvement. We believe that's a good thing. For our entire careers, it was no outside involvement, and then NIL came along and it was no inside involvement. So there's a happy medium in there somewhere, and a bunch of competing parallel tracks with the NCAA, Congress, lawsuits, and more. But we'll get there, and it's nice to have the state of Virginia in a proactive position.
Yeah, what are just overall thoughts on that from KG, from your standpoint? Because as you said, it is so confusing, because for years and forever it was nobody can have any part of it. And then this all starts happening and they're telling you can have nothing. It's so backwards to me. It has to be confusing and just annoying to have to deal with.
It is that. Again, I do believe we're closer to the end of this interim period, and hopefully some more structure. But yeah, at Virginia Tech, it will enable us to help our student athletes more. We take care of our young people. It's someone's sons and daughters, right? It could be nutrition, strength and conditioning, sports psychology. So we're going to take care of them in this respect as well. And, if you don't, they transfer. Sometimes they transfer anyways, but putting it back in the hands of the schools or more in the hands of schools and being more coordinated with collectives, that's good for the student athletes too.
Yes, agreed. And I think you put that in a great way, that things change just on a dime, basically a full 180 there. So before we get into some college football talk, because I know people are excited about Virginia Tech in 2024, so we're going to get to that. But I want to start with a program that is very near and dear to my heart, and that's the Virginia Tech women's basketball team. Megan Duffy is the new head coach at Virginia Tech. She is absolutely who I would have went and gotten if I was you, Whit. So love the hire. And then she's bringing in Ettore Coleman, who was my coach at Clemson, Jen Hoover, who was very successful at Wake Forest. Like, I just love the staff she's building. So what was it about Coach Duffy that you felt she was the person to lead Virginia Tech women's hoops?
Yeah, she's really hit the ground running. She's undefeated. She's my favorite coach that we have.
Yeah.
But it was great. It is speed dating kind of during coach searches. Her name came up a lot. Certainly being coached and mentored by Muffet McGraw, the Notre Dame connection. Although when she played, I don't believe they were in the ACC. She's built 2 programs up prior to this, proven winner. She's not afraid to be great. But when you sit in front of somebody and it clicks, I felt like she was young enough to have the energy to do this crazy profession, but experienced enough. And you kind of operate in a bubble. We felt like it was the best hire. You're never quite sure how it's going to be received. And man, it was refreshing and a pleasant experience to see it received so well. But she's a winner. Kenny Brooks and team did a great job. We don't plan on going backwards, and hopefully she can take us even higher. But thank you for saying that. Really impressed with her.
Yeah, me too. And I know Coach McGraw is a massive fan of Megan and is very excited about that. And you mentioned you don't plan on going backwards. The support at Virginia Tech, I try to tell people, and I feel like you don't know until you go. The perfect example is Elle Duncan, who we actually just had on our show when College Game Day was at Virginia Tech. I had told her multiple times up in Bristol when I had seen her, you guys got to go to Virginia Tech. And she was like, okay, all right, we'll try. The Monday or the next week after they went there, she found me. She goes, Kelly, that was insane. And I'm like, Elle, I was trying to tell you, how cool has it been for you, Whit? Because Hokie fans, I mean, they support their sports, but specifically the support with women's hoops, to me, is special. How has it been for you to see that grow?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. I've worked at 6 schools. They've all been great. This fan base is really special. They support you the entire time, whether we were 3-8 in football. Hopefully that's over with. But any of our sports, and actually with Coach Duffy, she referenced the fan base, their passion for it, the College Game Day. She had really done her homework. So yes, we're biased. Every place says they have great fans. We just think ours are a little better. And really, as an AD, what it really makes you want to do is reward them.
Yeah.
Certainly getting back on track at the level we expect in football, but across the board. And they will show up and show out, and it's a definite home court advantage.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question about that. And you got that in the football field too, brother. Let's transition there, because as you bring it up, man, we've been there, I think 5 times in the last 4 years, and just every time I see it, it is insane, to say the least. I mean, whether unfortunately we're not having a great season, or if there's all the excitement in the world, we're undefeated and rolling, that place is juiced up, and I think it's so hard to replicate that. I mean, these fans are just so passionate, so exciting, and being the #1 team in FBS returning production, there's just a little bit of hype. There's just a little bit of excitement, from myself included. I know Eddie Royal can't stand himself. Just your assessment right now on where football is, where football has come from, and kind of the expectation moving forward for the Hokies.
Yeah, really, really pleased with it. For the past 4, maybe 5 years, we've been selling hope and patience. So it's a nice change of pace to be back in the expectations game and trying to tamp that down some. But yeah, going back to the fan base, they're hungry. They've shown up. When we get this thing rolling, it ought to be off the charts. I think back in the day, it was never taken for granted, but it was kind of a birthright that we would win 10 and do this. And they've gone through some down times with us, and again, just makes us want to reward them. But yeah, with the returning roster, everything that Coach Pry has done, retention of our current team, we got a couple more days in the portal. And really with Coach Pry, you learn a lot more about coaches during a losing season than a winning season. You hope to not go through them, but winning can cover up some culture issues. And really for Coach Pry to come in his first year with a team he didn't recruit, go 3-8, retain the team. They played hard through the end. Last year we started slow, finished strong. I believe it speaks a lot to his culture and the excitement that we have. But yeah, Virginia Tech needs to be great for our sake. The ACC needs us to be great, and hopefully this is a big step in that direction.
I love what you said there about Coach Pry, and I completely agree with that. You learn more about your coach. You learn more about your culture when maybe things aren't going your way, and he's helped steward this program. And specifically, I thought last year was so impressive because, like you said, a slow start, really tough start. I mean, I'm Mac, you'll help me with the game, but the game where the crazy weather delay and then come back, I think it was maybe Maryland. So it was just a tough start, but the way they finished, I mean, that says it's so hard to keep guys engaged. You've got guys transferring mid-season now in college football.
Right.
So when you go back to the hiring process of Coach Pry, what was it about Brent Pry that you thought, this is the guy that can take Virginia Tech football from where we are back to where we belong? What was it about him?
Yeah, there was a few things. Certainly his familiarity with Virginia Tech, not that that's an absolute, but the fact he had been here during some formative years when we were achieving at the level of expectation, it was easy to tell that this place meant a lot to him. And I believe he had become very selective on becoming a head coach. He was quite fine to be a D coordinator. But this place was one he was ready to jump at. So you always want somebody that appreciates your place and wants your job, but maybe getting back to our roots of a defensive minded coach. The recruiting that he was doing at Penn State is in our state and our region, so there wasn't much change there. Again, you never quite know when you're going through it, but there was something there that felt right, and he's met and exceeded our expectations so far. So love working with him, and he really embraces the Hokie Nation and them in return.
Yeah, and I think that's been really the fun thing to watch, just him being fully immersed into this thing and having snowball fights and all these crazy things on campus, and just being that Virginia Tech guy. When you look at, again, just his culture, his mindset, you touched on it briefly there, being a defensive guy, it just felt like that's really what Virginia Tech needed. Is that where you really saw the most growth in getting really just a mindset shift from your head man?
Yeah, that would certainly be accurate. Maybe a little more of a renewed emphasis on recruiting our state and our region. Not that we won't go anywhere if we need to, but in this day and age, if you can kind of focus on a 6-hour radius around your campus, again, guys playing for a quote home team, it's a little less likely for transfers. So the recruiting base, the re-emphasis on defense, and again, the team culture, they grade everything. Everything is a competition in a good way.
Right.
And just instilling that culture and foundation. So yeah, really excited for this fall.
Yeah, KG, it helps when in that 6-hour radius you have the 757 and Richmond. That's not a bad bed of recruiting, Kelly, to pull from.
Well,
that's right.
And that's one of the things too at Virginia Tech, as someone who drove to Virginia Tech, I think 8 times over the last basketball season, is you also have Charlotte in that region. I mean, you've got a lot of places you can go 6 hours away, including Greenville, South Carolina, less than 6 hours, I can tell you that. When it comes to facilities, Whit, You guys recently completed the Tech Student Athlete Performance Center. You're also expanding football strength conditioning, all that. It feels like facilities is always a thing, right? It's always happening. How do you balance that now with kind of the increase with NIL, taking that more in-house? I know it's just athletic director seems like a difficult job, to be honest, dealing with all these things. But maybe what's on your horizon facilities-wise, and then how do you balance that as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I do believe that is evolving. Just a semi-educated guess. I do believe that the facilities arms race will slow a little bit.
Mm.
We have tried to pick points of differentiation for our facilities, whether it's the Performance Center, which is a $20 million nutrition center, the residence halls that we did for all of our freshman student athletes and how we do that. So facilities will always be important because it shows that there is that sports is important at Virginia Tech. It's the same reason our engineering building has a big jet engine up in the ceiling when you walk in, because you want people to know it's important. But having said that, right, when all the TV money came in and we were operating under the old structure, you paid coaches, you built huge staffs, you built Taj Mahal facilities. And I believe it will go more towards a pro model. The Panthers in Charlotte, or the Commanders in DC, their indoor practice facility is functional. It's not as nice as ours. It's not as pimped out. The locker room, same thing, weight room, because you pay the players. And we're not to that point yet. And I've never yet heard a free agent in any pro sport say, I went to that team for the facilities. They have to be nice enough, right? It may be where they want to live. It may be the biggest contract, but facilities will stay important. But I do believe the arms race will slow as there's a redistribution of revenues. And maybe in the long run, it might even be less expensive. So
Right.
Fortunately at Tech, a lot of our big projects are knocked out. Castle Coliseum is still a big one. We love the home court advantage. It'd be nice to keep that, but modernize it a little bit. But I'm thankful that Jim Weaver and all the people before and all the fundraising we've done has gotten us into a pretty good spot, especially in football, with not any really, really high ticket items. So long answer there.
No.
But it is evolving and changing, and what worked in the past is not the same model as we move forward.
Right. And I think that it's fascinating that you bring that up, because what's interesting is I remember a handful of years ago, we're down in Tampa for the national championship game. And, we were walking around the facility and looking at stuff. I'm like, this sucks.
Right.
Like, this is not good. And, we didn't quite say it as blunt as that, but one of the
Mac,
staff overheard us.
Did you say, where's the nap room? Did you say, where's the nap room?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so one of the staff, though, overheard us saying that. And they said, well, here's the deal. You're not paying Deshaun Watson $100 million. Like, that's where the NFL has to, kind of do its money. And what I think, even you kind of took it a step further. You didn't really say it, but I kind of previewed it that way or perceived it that way. I think the arms race sped all this up, because I think all these athletes are looking around like, you just spent how much on a facility? And we're not getting any of that. So it's a fascinating circle of, look at all this shiny stuff we have. And at the core of it, the players are like, hold on a minute. Like, we need some of this too. So it is such a fascinating thing. How do you, I'm asking you project here again, it's a crazy question, but how do you think that will evolve in the management of it, where if we are paying for play or whatever it evolves into, how do you choose, hey, we gotta do something to the stadium, or we have to build this whatever, versus we got to be able to pay our quarterback? Like, is it a new position? Is it just a total mind shift change? I mean, this is a crazy problem that maybe is 10, 15 years away.
Oh, I don't think it's that long. Maybe a year away. And we're certainly talking about it and trying to plan for it. And, you try to keep your ear to the ground, et cetera. I do believe there'll be more general manager type roles. You're starting to see that title, but there will probably be some addition of staff from that, contracts on down the line. But back to your facility point, if you spend $50 million on a facility, it takes you a few years to raise it, a couple years maybe to build it, and it might be 5 or 6 years down the road before it even has an impact on a recruit. And if you're looking at $50 million facility versus X and NIL, which is often much less. So I think it will lean that way. We're also starting to see in the football facility space that recovery, cryotherapy, all of the most modern type stuff. Because when young people want to come in, they want to know how you're going to develop them, how you're going to keep them healthy, keep them on the field, and prepare them for the next level. So, you want to be cutting edge on this, maybe not bleeding edge. So we've got some ideas, but we'll also copy a few others. But yes, the staffing and the model and the positions will look different and likely look a lot more like pro sports. We just don't have a draft.
Right.
We don't yet have a salary cap. We don't yet have really firm non-tampering rules. So maybe moving in that direction, as long as there's still students, is a positive. I think it is.
And I agree with you, Whit. Like, these are things we need to evolve on. But as someone, and I know a lot of these student athletes at 18 don't maybe understand this, but like my degree from Clemson and my network from Clemson is the most important thing that I have. So not trophies or records or whatever. And it's hard to understand that at 18. But I think we have to find a way to make sure that these kids get that. And I know you get that. You were a student athlete. You understand how that works. Like, do you feel like the modern student athlete understands that? Or is it just how much you're going to pay me? And which can be hard to get past when you're 17, 18 years old.
Right. Some do and some don't. I believe our NIL is certainly competitive. I really like how our coaches will educate our young people that, yes, it's certainly everybody should be able to maximize value, but what's coming down the road, right? That connection of Virginia Tech alumni. Mm-hmm. Do we develop you better for pro sports and you get a better contract, you sign higher in the draft and you get the money on the back end? So some do, some don't. I'm certainly not claiming that I understand it all. Some from their financial situation, how can you blame them?
Sure.
Others, even in that financial situation, are starting to see the long game. But I do believe it takes a good coach to educate on that front. And again, roster retention may be one of the most important aspects of head coaching right now.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question. And we've talked to many, and we'll talk to many more leading into the season. But the sum that you've heard from where you have to recruit your team 365 has been crazy, and we're starting to see some people get a little burned out and want to go pro, or coaches that want to go to the NFL and just coach ball, which sometimes it was the opposite. It is a crazy evolving time that I think something you said earlier too about the tampering. I think that'll really help if we can if we can start to get something with that where it can't happen, right? It can't happen. Let these young men and women make their own decision. Let's not have people texting and calling mid-season saying, "Hey, come over here, we can help." I mean, it's bizarre. It truly is. And the fact that there's no repercussions is crazier. A bit of a transition here as we close out, brother, but I did want to ask just Virginia Tech's stance on this, lawsuit that is occurring right now, or a couple of lawsuits. Maybe it's more than that, 4, between the ACC, Clemson, Florida State. Is it something that you guys are just closely monitoring? Do you have a stance on it? Where is Virginia Tech in all of this?
Yeah, we certainly keep an eye on it. It's certainly unprecedented. Clemson and Florida State, I'm sure, had their reasons. It does distract somewhat from the league success to have that narrative out there. And again, yes, we keep an eye on it. We're certainly focused on Virginia Tech and being good ACC partners. The ACC's been good to us, and we want to do our part there. Jim Phillips, I think, is working his tail off to do the best he can for the league, and hopefully there's some successful resolution on that before too long. But really, we also try to focus on controlling what we can control. No matter what happens, the recipe for Virginia Tech is the same. We need to be really good in football. We need to have a breadth of a department and some high-level competition there. And we need to operate without scandal. And we need to continue to elevate our really good academic pedigree. So within the ACC, whatever the heck happens on down the road, I hope the league stays together in its current configuration. But really, the recipe for us and controlling what we can control is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worry about yourself.
I love that.
I love
man.
it. And
That's
I hope
right.
so too, because I love the ACC. And I hope it stays together. And I think it should. And I think it's what's best for the student athletes. But of course, maybe we aren't worried about that necessarily anymore at the way up level. Okay. I want to transition here. This is my last question, Whit. And as you've been at Virginia Tech for a good bit, you've accomplished a lot. If you could give me, like, what's the one thing you are most proud of at your time at Virginia Tech?
Yeah, man, that's a good one. Really, I don't know that there's any one thing that stands out. I've worked at 6 schools. This is by far the longest. This is my school now. I will retire or get fired here, and I'd prefer one of those over the other. So it is my school. I love it. It really resonates with me. I'm committed to the long term on that. Really proud of our coaches and staff, how hard they've worked, everything they've done here. I guess if there's 2 thoughts, right? We're all stewards of this. Virginia Tech's way bigger than any of us that are here, but I guess I take pride when we do things that have never been done before. It may be a Final Four in women's basketball, but it could also be attendance records, GPA records, fundraising records, appearing in regionals, beating this team for the first time. Those never been done, and setting the bar a little higher. I get a kick out of that. And really trying to elevate us continually from a challenger brand up to a champion brand, not being afraid to make that step. That's a challenge I really like. And then I guess the last thought of something that I'm proud of, we talk about this in our department. Every single employee, if they can remember nothing else, the single-minded proposition we have in Virginia Tech athletics is we create memorable experiences that only Virginia Tech can offer, period. Enter Sandman is a memorable experience. Graduation is a memorable experience. If you rehab back from an injury and make it back, it's memorable. If your facilities are clean, it's memorable. And so that, again, is a very long answer. I tend to give those, but no one thing, no one project. The people and just elevating it higher and hopefully leaving it better than we found it. And love this place. It really resonates with me, and I'm grateful they've kept me around. So hope to keep that going.
Okay, I lied. I have one more because you got me thinking when you said things that have never been done. And of course, I think the unprecedented success with women's hoops has never been done at Virginia Tech. And then you have Liz Kitley and what she's done. And it's been a joy for me to cover her for 5 years. How easy was the decision for you, Whit, which to me hasn't really been done, to retire her jersey that quickly next season? I mean, she basically just graduated and now we're retiring her jersey. Obviously no brainer, but what went into that discussion?
You know, it's funny, even though you try to tune out a fan base, I must have got hit up on that more than most anything. And I would just say, yes, we're going to do the right thing. But in my mind, I was like, people, let's finish the season first. Can we at least get through the ACC? But she was so impactful and played her whole career here. And, you know, right before the women's NBA draft, we thought that would be great. She had been hurt. It was a no-brainer. It was a nice transition also with Coach Duffy coming in, and no sense waiting. She's been the most instrumental player, arguably in any sport, but certainly women's basketball. And it was just the right thing to do. I didn't know Iowa got to Caitlin Clark a couple days before that. We should have been the first one out the door. But those 2 players are worthy of it, and it's going to be really cool to see number 33 up there, and we'll have her back and celebrate her accordingly next season. But man, fun to watch, great citizen, great student, and got so much better year after year after year. And it's an honor to do it. That was a no-brainer.
Yeah. KG was saying she thought it was too fast. I was wondering what took so long. Wait, let's go.
No.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
You normally don't do it that quickly, but with Liz Kitley, it's different. I mean, she has embodied that program, and
she's the GOAT.
You have no worries about her, like, you know, messing things up. Obviously, I mean, she's it. So I love it.
She's the best.
Yeah, we just wanted to put a bow on top of it for her after the heart injury, and I don't know, timing seemed great. We talked about it she liked the thought of doing it before she went to the draft, and it was really easy. Hopefully we can
That's
hang
cool.
a few more up there.
No
Yeah.
doubt. No doubt. Well, brother, this was so much fun, man. We're grateful for your time, excited for this football season, man, and always appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Yeah, same to you guys. Really appreciate your work. Love watching it. And go Hokies. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks again to Whit Babcock for joining us. We know we joke, Mac, about how important our guests are. Whit is like actually important. He has a very important day job that takes a lot of time. So we appreciate his time. And we've now had 3 athletic directors on. If you've missed Graham Neff or Michael Alford, you want to go listen to those. Maybe who should we have next? Comment in the comments. We'll, up from the ACC, I'm assuming is what y'all will be asking for. So we appreciate Whit, appreciate his time, and just how candid he was about everything going on in college athletics and in Blacksburg.
Yeah, really great conversations. Very grateful for his time, as you said, KG. And we continue to roll the summer guest series. It's been so much fun. We've got some more great guests down the pipeline. You guys are going to absolutely love this and can't wait to just keep unveiling these. And as we get closer and closer to football, the guests are really going to pick up and we start diving into the season a little bit. You guys are going to love that too. So appreciate you always being on this journey with us. Big shout out to Ingles. Appreciate their support as always, but also need you guys to go over to YouTube, continue to subscribe, leave some comments, jump in there. We always love reading those and going back and forth with you guys. And of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts as well. Rate, review, subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.